Now, to discuss this judgment a little more in detail, I'm joined by constitutional law expert Pierre de Vos. Pierre, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for joining us on Weekend Dawn. My first question, a little too late for this sort of judgment. It's a little sad that a court had to suspend these guys when we all knew and all saw the footage of how this man was assaulted in his own home in Alexandra.
Yes, so it's quite shocking actually, and I'm using that word carefully, that the Minister of Defence and the Chief of Defence, Chief of the Army did not agree to the suspension immediately, and said that resisted the request that there should be a code of conduct for soldiers who are deployed with the police as the law requires. So that has now actually been confirmed by the court. It's also a bit shocking that the court was asked and actually said it's necessary to say that the soldiers are legally required to obey the law, and that they have to respect the rights of individual citizens, and that they're not above the law, and they are not allowed to breach people's rights in ways not allowed by the law.
But at the same time, it can be looked at as a good thing as well, Pierre, considering that a lot of other people may have experienced something similar, so they sort of do know now how to deal with civilians. I'm obviously referring to SANDF officials and, of course, police officers out there. Now, I don't think they're going to tighten the rope like they did before.
Well, we will have to wait and see. What is also important from the judgment, though, is that the court ordered the various leaders, political and other leaders in the police and the military, to speak to every single of their members and tell them, this is the law, you shouldn't do these kind of things. So we will have to wait and see whether how effective they're going to do this, and whether the soldiers and the police officers are going to actually listen to this instruction.
Pierre, a suspension, do you think that's enough? For me, on my thoughts, I would think that's just a slap on the wrist. Surely dismissal is the next option here?
So the court further said, so that's an important question, the court further told or ordered that there should be an investigation into the matter that is going to be independent, so it is not people covering up for their own people. And of course, eventually there will be disciplinary hearings, and if those people who are found guilty will have to be dismissed. I would think those people who caused Mr. Khoza's death should also be prosecuted, either for murder or culpable homicide, because that is what happened in this case.
And now that the court has sort of outlined what the procedure should be going forward for law enforcement officials, does this actually mean that they will adhere to this? And what if they don't adhere to this? What sort of punishment can they expect then?
Well, obviously, another thing actually that the court said is that the soldiers and police must be warned that if they break the law, they will be disciplined, and they will be criminally charged if that is appropriate. The problem is, so far, the police prosecuting authority has been very reluctant to act against members of law enforcement who have broken the law. We have IPA to investigate the police. Many of their reports reveal bad behavior, but it's very difficult to prosecute because the police are supposed to investigate and make the case, which is then prosecuted. And, you know, it's really the police, in a way, are asked to go after members of their own, and they seldom do this. So we will have to see if the judgment will have an effect. The only way it will is if there's political pressure from the minister down on the police to do this, and that is really important. We will have to wait and see how the Minister of Police and Defence act to this, and whether they're going to do the right thing and take the leadership that is required.
I just want to talk a little more about what you tweeted from the judgment. There was a mention of the Mohammed case, which was compared to this case. Yes. Can you tell us a little more about the similarities between the two cases?
Yes, so the Mohammed case, the court said that, if I remember correctly now, the court said that the government is a teacher, and the government, the way in which the ministers, the senior officials act that is how other people will then act. So if from the top, the minister says you must kop skiet and donor people, that is what's going to happen underneath, and that's what's going to happen in society, and then all the ordinary citizens are going to say, you are not obeying the law, you are showing that you don't respect the law, why should we? And the Mohammed case was a complicated case about the death penalty, but the principle is the same. It's the basic principle that if you act in a way that respects the law, you model it for others, they might actually respect it too, but if you don't, then you mustn't be surprised when people are also lawbreakers just like those in power.
Pierre, is there any indication on the investigation itself and when action will be taken against those parties that were found to have had a hand in the killing of Collins Khosa when it comes to a police case against them? Do we have an indication as to when that case will wrap up?
We don't. There was a promise from the Council for the Minister of Defence, or the Chief of Defence, that they would have a report from the internal investigation that they would hand to the court. When the court hearing happened, there was no report, and there was a news report that said that the family members of Mr. Khoza had not been interviewed yet by the internal investigators. So as we stand, we have no idea whether any investigation has happened, and if it has happened, when the results will be available. But there should be now, in terms of the court order, a real investigation that is actually that is going to be beefed up so that there is actually the truth actually comes out.
So we all know that the Independent Police Investigative Directorate handles any issues or grievances with officers, mainly Metro Police and SAPS members. Who handles issues with the SANDF members? Does that also fall under the Independent Police Investigative Directorate?
No. So in this case, there was actually some confusion because firstly, IPID said they cannot investigate because those soldiers stood by and did nothing while the soldiers did what they did, but they were not involved. They have now considered that that is wrong because if you're a police officer and a soldier commits a crime, you have to stop them and arrest them, and that didn't happen. But for the military, there's a military ombudsman, and the ombudsman is supposed to investigate this. I don't really have much information about the ombudsman, and so it's difficult to assess how independent and effective this body is, but that is the body that is normally supposed to do this. But we know now from the court judgment that there will be some other process for the investigation.